Alright, we're going. Hey demons, it's us, you boys. We're expanding this week.
You should have said Devilmans.
So, there's a Devilman dub. If you haven't seen the dub for the original Devilman, well, not the original, old Devilman.
All right, well let's do this.
All right, let's get into emails.
Emails. Wheel Justice sent us an email titled "Devilman Crybaby."
Is that really how we're gonna start it?
Yes, it is. He says,
"Just me rambling about the Devilman dub."
He says, "If
I'm
you guys,
Devilman."
It's a good start. Oh God. He says, if you guys ever feel like doing a TV segment again, I'd love for you to review the full series of Devilman Crybaby. # no regrets. Sent from mail from Windows 10.
Yes, we'll talk about Devilman Crybaby. We could even talk about it now, if you want.
Do you want?
We actually, so when we were discussing before the episode began, did you know he sent that email when he said it? We were talking about, God.
Yeah, talking about.
I am not myself today.
That's all right.
We were talking about Devilman and whether or not we should discuss it on the show. And we decided no, but now that we have this email, I think it's like a
mandatory
sign that we have to talk about it a little bit.
A little bit.
So we'll do that. But what's the other email?
Okay, so Roberto sent us 2 emails.
Oh, nice.
He says, "Hi guys, I know I've recommended 2 albums that you guys were disappointed with, so I hope you enjoy this one, Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix by Phoenix. I would also like for you guys to talk about movie soundtrack scores, etc., etc. Also, this is the second part of his email. Also, there's a teen ? Movie you guys might like, The Way Back."
I've heard of that. Also, I've heard of Phoenix. I've heard Phoenix. They're pretty good.
All right.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we'll get on it.
We'll get on it. Yes. I have never heard a full album of Phoenix, so try it out.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah.
And then, oh boy, Sadie, why do you make me keep talking? Okay, so Sadie sent us an email. It says, someone I follow tweeted this, and it is so accurate. Holy shit! I have to get ready for class now. I'm eager to hear you talk about it. Sadie, sent from my iPhone. And then she has an image attached to it, which is taking its sweet old time to load on my phone.
And I can put the image up on screen.
Yep, here it comes. It's halfway loaded. It's coming there. This is it's not loading, man. Come on, just finish.
Well, this is going great.
There it goes.
There it goes.
So how about them Cloverfield Paradox reviews? It currently has a 0% score. Now I know why Paramount dumped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I saw Cloverman Paradox. I saw Cloverman Paradox. And it was really not good. I think it's because I think I said that because of Devilman.
I'm assuming so.
Really, Cloverman, whatever. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
That's the best slip I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Woo.
So back to the first one.
No. We got a second part from Sadie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she sent another one. As a follow-up, now that I'm slightly more awake, this was 5 hours ago compared to the other 5 hours ago one.
5 hours ago. Wow.
So maybe this is backlash so fast because it's on Netflix, so there's that instant gratification. But also maybe no one expected 10 Cloverfield Lane to be as good as it was. Sadie, again, sent from my iPhone, etc., etc.
That's a good point. Cloverfield Paradox had a lot to live up to. So,
like John Goodman.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that when we get to the movie segment. But since Zach wanted us to talk about an anime, we can just open with that. So,
have you watched any anime recently?
Devilman Crybaby.
How about that?
I've only seen okay, here's the thing. We're probably going to do an updated thing later if we both like watch more of it, but I've only seen the first 2 episodes. And you've only seen the first episode, or did you watch more?
I haven't seen any more.
Okay, so we've seen the first episode, but the first episode in itself is kind of it's like a microcosm of a lot of cool stuff. So, Devilman Crybaby is just... I'm not very familiar with the original Devilman. All I know about it is the amazing dub. But Crybaby is just insane. Like, I like anime that's just kind of unhinged and crazy, and this is definitely very unhinged and very crazy. And I'm enjoying it. What do you think of the first episode?
It's a trip.
Yeah.
It's a lot of...
I mean, the first episode ends with the main character dropping LSD and getting involved in a massacre in a nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
And
then the sexual demons come and kill everyone.
Yeah. And it's just as insane as it sounds.
Yeah.
And
in fact, it might be more. So.
Yeah, no, it's like even still, you'd probably be a little floored going into it.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, and I want to see more of it. But that's all I know about Devilman at the moment is the first 2 episodes, and the second episode's pretty cool too. It's less crazy, but it's like there's some cool action stuff. So,
is there more Devilman?
Yeah, there is more Devilman.
How about that?
Yeah, so check that one out. It's promising, but I can't say much more about it than that.
There you go, Wheels.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy.
Anything else we can discuss right away from these?
Not really. Well, do you want to add the way back to our movie for next week? Or do we want to wait just a little bit longer and make that optional?
Oh, well, we don't really have anything planned for next week, do we?
I mean, I do.
Okay. Well, if you do, we can push it back another week.
Tell you what, it's up in the air.
Okay.
It's all a gamble. You'll see next week.
We may or may not talk about it next week.
Yeah, I'll probably just text Colin one night and be like, guess what? I have time to watch it. And then Colin will be like, oh boy, and then he'll watch it too.
Yeah, basically. It's all in Josh's hands here.
Exactly. Look at these hands.
He's the busy one.
They're very skinny and fragile.
Yes.
They'll slide right through.
So, then I guess let's move on to music.
Yeah.
Which will be pretty brief. Unless you have something to talk about, you're holding out on me, but...
I'm always holding out on you.
That's true. Basically, my song of the week is... I gotta remember the name of it. I Do Know and I'm Not Sorry by Sleep In. Give a listen.
Maybe a bad star, and maybe you won't get me very far, but at least I'm still a star.
Have you ever heard of?
No.
Okay, that's understandable because Sleep In is kind of a alt indie emo band.
Sounds like what I want to do every day.
Sleep In?
Yeah.
Yes. They're a indie emo band.
I'm just really tired. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm kind of tired too. I got to bed really late last night because I was watching Cloverfield.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to reviews.
Yeah. And we'll get to that. So anyway, this is a indie emo rock song. It's got a really solid hook. It's just like you feel like you can mosh to it. And as I thought this band would be more popular than they are, I looked them up, and this is their top played song with about 200,000 plays, which is decent, but like all the other songs have much less. So they're not very well known. So I thought it would be a decent song to spotlight because I've been listening to it a lot recently, and I really enjoy it. What's your song of the week?
My song of the week is Song of Storms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like the Legend of Zelda one?
Now, this is... So, like, what version of Song of Storms?
You know what? Put in the from Brawl. Because Brawl's soundtrack, as much as I don't like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, the soundtrack is bombing. Yo.
Okay. So, Song of Storms, the song from Super Smash Bros. Give it a listen. I was just playing Zelda before we started this up.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move on to movies.
Actually, no. I do want to talk a little bit about video game music, because lately I've been really getting into listening to soundtracks from video games and not movies, which is what we were told to do in the email, which is almost on the same page, not quite. It's fine. But I was listening through the entire soundtrack of Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy. And then I went from there to the original Crash Bandicoot theme. And then I went and listened to the Donkey Kong rap.
Oh, the DK rap?
Yeah, I listened to that about 18 times.
Actually, the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack is very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
That's like one of my favorite game soundtracks and doesn't get the love it deserves.
Yeah, no, it's very good. If you get time, listen to that too.
Yeah.
And then I went from that to a little bit of Final Fantasy / Kingdom Hearts, depending on what I was in the mood for. And I've realized I need to spend more time listening to video game soundtracks.
Oh, yeah.
That's the moral of the story.
I find Kingdom Hearts has a very, very good soundtrack. Better than you'd expect for a game about Disney characters. I guess that's not what I mean by that.
I mean, Disney
it does have
soundtracks.
great music, but it's a different kind of music than you'd expect from a game like that, because it's got isn't it composed by like the Final Fantasy person?
I think so. Yeah, well, and Final Fantasy has some of the best soundtracks ever.
And it's got very Final Fantasy-esque music. It's super good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got. On
I mean, recently I was listening to the Bloodborne soundtrack.
Oh god.
Which is also very good.
I just started playing Bloodborne again.
Nice.
Actually, so that's funny. God, I love that game.
Oh yeah, it's a banger.
It's so good.
I have one more music thing to talk about. It's just kind of an announcement and a promise that we will talk about this when it happens. But there's a Yona Lee album coming out soon, mid-February, I believe, and we will talk about it, or I will at least. I'll tell you to listen to it probably. I've featured one single off of this album as a song of the week, and I've talked about a few others, I believe. Super great music, and I'm glad that she's finally, after releasing so many singles, she's putting them into an album, and I'm hoping there's like a few new singles to go along with this new album. If the rest of the album is as good as these singles, like, it's going to be an amazing album. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet.
And that's about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you have one more?
I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of different stuff lately. I've been trying to listen to Ed Sheeran.
Oh, yeah.
Because people tell me that Ed Sheeran's good.
That's a shame.
They're not entirely wrong. I've found some stuff that's been some pretty decent.
It's not my thing. And
Usually, I wouldn't say that either.
I've listened to a fair amount of Ed Sheeran, to be fair. It's not one of those things I avoid on principle. If Ed Sheeran's on, I'll give it a shot because I know people that like Ed Sheeran, but I've never really heard a song of his that I enjoyed.
I'm not a fan of his popular stuff, but if you do some deep digging, you can find some pretty cool tracks, actually. Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my top of the nose review.
Sounds good.
Movies.
Into movies. So do you want to get A24? Let's close with A24 Fest. That's
Sure.
always because that's always the most fun part of movies, to me at least, talking about A24 movies. So let's get the least fun part out of the way, talking about Cloverfield. Now, you won't have a lot to say because you haven't seen Cloverfield yet.
Yep.
But we were actually talking about how the marketing for 10 Cloverfield Lane was really cool because they announced it and they're like, it comes out next month. And we were like, oh, sweet. They really ramped it up to like an insane level. Okay, so the backstory of this is there's a movie called God Particle, or The God Particle. And it turned out that it had been hijacked and turned into a Cloverfield movie. And then we got a title, Cloverfield Station. And it's like, oh, it's... And we got like images and it's like, oh, it's like space. It's a space movie. And then I kind of forgot about it a little bit. I was like, I'm sure they'll announce it at some point this year. And then during the Super Bowl, there's a trailer for it saying that it was going to be on Netflix. And then on Netflix, there was a trailer for it at the top of the page saying available after the game. So they announced the movie. Bear in mind, and then Cloverfield Paradox was the title, and that was the first we had ever heard that title, because this was just the announcement of the movie. And they're like, you can watch it in 2 hours on Netflix. And that's insane. Like, that's completely bonkers. I was like, wow, I'm just going to watch the new Cloverfield tonight. And so I did. Anyway, let's move on to the next movie. How many times am I going to use that gag today? I don't know.
As many times as we need to.
Cloverfield Paradox is not good. It's entertaining. There are fun parts about it. Chris O'Dowd's in it, who plays Roy on IT Crowd. And he's funny in it, but he feels a little miscast. Like, every time he's like the comic relief, and every time he cracks a joke, I'm like, that is objectively funny because he's a funny guy and the jokes are, amusing, but it doesn't fit the rest of the movie, because it being a Cloverfield movie, it's trying to take itself pretty seriously, and then like wacky hijinks with Chris O'Dowd out of nowhere, and it's like I don't get what tone this movie's going for. But there's some legitimately inventive and funny stuff with his character, so it didn't bother me all that much. The effects were not very good. For like the space station shots, they were decent, but there's some smaller scale effects that looked very fake. And there's a scene with a monster earlier on in the movie that looks very much shoehorned in. In fact, you know how I said, like, at the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's very obvious that, like, the last 20 minutes weren't supposed to be in the movie. They just added that in when they decided it was going to be a Cloverfield movie. Mm-hmm. That's even more obvious in this movie. There's like every once in a while you see things from Earth's perspective, and like a lot of those scenes felt like this wasn't in the original script. I guarantee you this wasn't in the original script. There's a scene in particular where they tease a monster down on Earth, and it's like, this does not fit. This doesn't work with this kind of movie. And the movie, other than the like really awfully shoehorned Cloverfield elements, it has nothing to do with Cloverfield. It's like 10 Cloverfield Lane all over again. Except 10 Cloverfield Lane was a good movie where Cloverfield elements were shoved in, and Cloverfield Paradox is like an okay movie, like a okay to mediocre movie with just monsters in it all of a sudden, and it's just not, it doesn't work. And it's a mess, and like honestly, this movie's biggest problem is the logic. I was shaking my head, rolling my eyes at just the stupidity in this movie. Like, so many things just didn't make sense, and I was just genuinely baffled and confused in a lot of scenes where it's like, did I miss something? Because like, the things are happening in a sequence that like doesn't make sense, but then you look back on it, and it's like they're implying that it's happening in a logical order, but it's like they just forgot to show certain parts of it. So you piece it together and you're like, I guess it makes sense, but it was shown in a very confusing way. Like,
Okay.
particularly with a character that's introduced as the movie goes along, you'll know who I'm talking about. That was just that character. I didn't get anything about her. So, yeah, no, honestly, I didn't like it all that much. There's some okay. It was basically what it is if you've seen like Event Horizon or Alien or Sunshine, you've seen this movie, or like Life, that recent Ryan Reynolds movie. You've seen this movie, so if you just want to watch one of those again, but with like some awkward Cloverfield integration, go for it. But yeah, no. Look up like a scene of Chris O'Dowd's and watch it, because those are funny. But
All right. Cool.
solid like 5 out of 10. It was not bad, but it was just not good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you ever get around to watching Three Billboards?
I did not, unfortunately.
All right. Well, then we won't go into it very, very much, because I actually do
Yeah.
want to have a conversation with you about it. But I watched it. It was phenomenal. I loved it. Honestly, it takes second place in what I want to win the Oscars. First being Shape of Water, then Three Billboards, and then after that, Phantom Thread. Which I thought was very strange, Very weird that one topped it. That one got a 5 out of 5 stars,
Yeah.
across the board for me. So we'll talk about it more.
Okay, cool. I'm thinking if you want to just talk about it with me, I'm thinking I'll watch it and we can talk about it next week.
Yeah,
I was the way I was envisioning this in my head was that if you wanted to like fully talk about it, I would do a thing where I watch it on my own and then like put me talking about it after you talk about it, but
No.
that wouldn't have worked very well.
Let's not do that.
Yes.
But no, I don't want you to go into it thinking it's a masterpiece because
Right. See, and I don't expect it to be.
Okay.
Honestly, my expectations are a little lowered because it looked like it doesn't really look like the kind of movie I typically enjoy, but I have confidence in the writer director, and I have confidence in the actors, so I'm hoping it's something I like,
Yeah. Anyway, give it a watch. In my book, it's a 10 out of 10, literally.
Sweet.
Yeah, you want to talk about the next movie?
Dynamite, 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 dynamite.
Yes, I very much would like to talk about the next movie. My movie of the week is Black Dynamite, and it's pretty good. I showed Josh, literally, it was this last Friday. I was like, are you free? And he was like, maybe, why? Or like, what's going on? And I was like, let's watch Black Dynamite. So then we ended up doing it Saturday. And I still love it. What do you think about it? I honestly, I feel like there's not much to be said about it because it's like, it is what it is. Like, if you look up a trailer, that's exactly what you get.
Okay, so Black Dynamite is basically like the Mel Gibson of blaxploitation films.
The Mel Gibson of blaxploitation films.
Did I say Mel Gibson?
Yes. I don't know what that means. You mean Mel Brooks?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, I compare it more to
Mel Gibson. It's incredibly racist and horrible.
Yeah.
No.
Personally, I compare it more to like Sucker Brothers. It feels like more that style. But
That's great, but I don't know who that is.
Right.
So, who is it?
Airplane, Naked Gun.
Okay,
those
yeah,
folks.
I actually know them better than I know Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
But I know Mel Brooks' name, and I don't know the Zucker brothers.
Right, yeah.
Because when you say Zucker brothers, I just
Well,
think Mark Zuckerberg.
didn't you think that Airplane and Naked Gun were Mel Gibson movies?
Yeah, essentially.
Not Mel Gibson, Mel Brooks. Mel
This
Brooks
is great.
movies.
You
You put it in my head.
I know.
Yeah, no, they're not. Believe it or not, they're by the Zucker brothers, who are geniuses in their own right. And Black Dynamite feels like a Zucker brothers-esque movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's honestly hilarious. It is probably the funniest movie I've ever seen. Like, I've seen it 3 times and I still laugh out loud when I watch it. It's honestly, it's just phenomenal.
I was worried your parents were going to come up and be upset with how loud we were being. And I haven't worried about that since I was like 10.
Yeah. Because it's just a riot. It really is.
God.
There are things that happen in this movie that I don't want to spoil, but you will not believe your eyes.
I went home and my parents, they weren't feeling very good, so they went to bed way early. And so they came out when I got home at like 1:30 in the morning. Right. Is when I got home about. So they come out of their room and they're just like, "Hey, how's it going? We went to bed at 6 o'clock, so we're up now." And I'm just like, "Okay." And so then they sat on the couch and they were just chatting. And then my dad and I get talking. And he's like, "So what'd you do?" And I said, "I watched Black Dynamite." And he just laughs. And he's like, "Yeah?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I proceeded to describe what happens in Black Dynamite to my father.
Oh, yeah.
And the ending with you-know-who, where he does a karate stance.
It's amazing.
I made my father cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was laughing so hard he was crying with just me describing it to him.
Oh yeah. It's a hilarious movie. It really is. I feel like I've said that before.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah, no. See, it's a parody of the blaxploitation genre of like the 70s. And believe it or not, most of the jokes aren't. It's one of those intentionally bad movies. Like there are like bad editing choices that are intentional. Like there are mistakes that are intentional. Overall, it's like it's trying. It's just making fun of those old bad blaxploitation films, and I think the movie is strongest in its first 2 acts. The last act is so absurd, it almost kind of loses you a little bit, because it's just like, I mean, it's funny up until that point, but it's funny in a pretty grounded and like thematic sense. Like everything makes sense in the world of the movie, but then you realize that like reality just isn't a thing in the last act, because it goes so over the top that I guess that in itself is pretty charming, but it's like,
as soon as somebody mentions Kung Fu Island, you're like, no, this movie just lost its rails.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. Kung Fu Island.
Yeah, they go to Kung Fu Island, and it just turns into a kung fu movie at that point, which is, I mean...
Oh, God. I threw that before I even came in here.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Oh, God, it's so stupid.
Oh, God. I seriously watch Black Dynamite. I don't want to, like... I want to talk about all my favorite jokes in the movie, but it'd be if someone's watching and hasn't seen it, you got to experience it for yourself. It's seriously amazing. Anyway,
it's so good.
Yeah. What's your movie of the week?
My movie of the week is Evil Dead. The Sam Raimi Evil Dead that came out a million years ago. With all them tasty practical effects and living hell production standards. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember Evil Dead? We watched it.
I the first time I saw Evil Dead was with you. I had never seen it before. I had seen Army of Darkness plenty of times, but never Evil Dead, and it was really good. It's like an actual horror movie. Army of Darkness is just camp, Like, well, Evil Dead's pretty campy too, but it's like it's actually a horror movie. It's not like this weird fantasy thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun, and the practical gore effects are very nice. I like
All
the
red corn syrup.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of blood in that movie.
Yeah.
Wasn't it unrated or like rated X for a period of time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just because of how, and it's like it's not that bad by today's standards.
Well, and okay, so do you remember that part where it's not really a spoiler, I guess, but Bruce Campbell gets stabbed in the ankle? Mm-hmm. That's because he actually injured himself on set and was limping.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was so many issues with recording that movie that they ended up actually having injuries and broken bones.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, look up like the behind the scenes stuff from Evil Dead. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I love reading about movies that were just a nightmare to make. Yeah,
it was a production nightmare, just terrible.
I'm like I when I talk about like bad experiences in producing movies, it's always on a scale of like what would you say is just like a super easy movie, like any Adam Sandler movie, like minimal effort.
So you mean like Grown Ups?
Yeah,
where you and your friends just hang out in a cabin for a while.
Yeah, and deliver like poorly written dialogue.
Yeah,
on a scale from Grown Ups to Apocalypse Now. That's like my scale of movie difficulty. Apocalypse Now was just a nightmare. There was one of the characters was just on LSD the whole time. Like literally the actor was just on LSD the whole time.
Yeah.
They were filming in a jungle and it was just terrible. I like the director threatened to kill himself a lot.
Jesus.
Read up about Apocalypse Now. It's insane. It really gives you even more appreciation for that movie.
You know what? That'd be great if I had an appreciation for that movie, but I haven't seen it.
You should. You should see Apocalypse Now. I should have made that my movie of the week. What if I told you we were going to see Black Dynamite and I threw on Apocalypse Now, the Redux edition, which is like 3.5 hours long?
I'd be like, wow, this is a really weird version of Black Dynamite. I thought it was going to be a lot funnier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Evil Dead, Black Dynamite, watch both of them. That would be a fun double feature.
Yeah.
It really would be.
And then I'm going to force you to watch Evil Dead 2 sometime within the fairly near future.
I will.
Yeah. It'd be good.
Anyway, so, how are you?
I've been better, but overall, it's all right. How about yourself?
I can't read your writing. I'm trying to look at your list.
We got absolutely nothing left to talk about.
Okay, good.
So we're on to A24.
Yeah, I guess we're on A24. This might be an hour episode, which is nice because we've been trying to get them down. Fortunately, we didn't go into any really deep conversation, but I guess we can. Who knows what will happen with A24? So,
The Rover.
Yes, The Rover is
featuring
Bill
Paxton.
Bill Paxton.
Yeah, you know Paxton?
Yeah, Bill Paxton.
But also known as Paxton.
Yeah. Featuring Guy Pearce, Robert Pattinson, and some other people I didn't recognize.
Why do I recognize Guy Pearce? What else has he been in?
He was the fake man. No, he was the real Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Not the fake one. You know, at the very end, that like normal looking guy, and he was like, "You want to know who the Mandarin is? I am the Mandarin." And then he just turns into fire, aka the worst ending in film history.
Even worse than 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Yeah. Actually, I want to look that up because now I'm not even sure if that was Guy Pearce.
I think it is.
I'm going to feel like a right fool if it wasn't.
I think you're right, though. But yeah, Guy Pearce.
One of the top results is Iron Man 3 shirtless.
That's what I really wanted.
Yeah, it was Guy Pearce. Yeah, he was the main guy in The Rover, and he's quite different in The Rover.
I like him better in The Rover. You know why?
Yeah.
Because he looks like Logan.
He looks and he is like Logan, except he has less humanity in him. And I want to say, I said this to the group, I think The Rover is the bleakest A24 movie we've done. Would you agree with that so far?
Oh God, what have we watched?
Well, there's Krisha, which was like sad in another kind of way.
Yeah.
This is like, okay, we should explain what the Rover's all about. Basically, the Rover is kind of like Mad Max, in that it takes place in a post-apocalyptic Australia.
Memento.
Yeah, he was in Memento too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's basically Mad Max and John Wick smashed into one movie.
I wouldn't say John Wick because it's not action focused. It's
No.
more like
But the plot.
the plot. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, he loses a seemingly inconsequential thing, and it drives him to get revenge on those that wronged him. But in terms of tone, I think it's Mad Max meets The Road with Viggo Mortensen.
I haven't seen The Road.
It's a similar apocalyptic, just really depressing movie about a man with like no hope, just trying to survive.
All right.
In this case, it's more Guy Pearce is a man with like no hope trying to kill these people, and it's. The movie threw me for a complete loop. There's a thing that he does early on in the movie, specifically when he's buying the gun. Up until that point, I was like, I like this guy. He's like no nonsense. He's cool. He's gonna be like this awesome, like wise hero. And then that scene happened, and I was like, my view of this character got turned on its head, and I was like, this guy is a psychopath. Like, he is an absolute, just unhinged scumbag. And I was like, I started to feel just really awful at that point, and I kept feeling more and more awful throughout the whole movie, but like my enjoyment started peaking. As we've discussed, I like feeling terrible when watching movies. And it's a you seem to me like you weren't really that impacted by it.
I didn't care.
Okay.
About any of the characters except for probably Robert Pattinson, actually.
Robert Pattinson's interesting in that movie.
I am very surprised between these two movies.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, he's not
He's
bad.
a better actor than I would have given him credit for.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly surprised, actually.
Yeah.
But he's the closest I came to connecting with the character in this entire movie.
Yeah. See, this is one of those movies like Dunkirk. Well, I not like Dunkirk, but this is one of those movies where it's like it's tough to sympathize with characters because it's such an extreme situation and like you're never sure what their motives are.
Yeah, well, and my biggest issue is it doesn't feel like any of these people are real.
I suppose.
Like when I was watching it, I'm just like, okay, so as far as making logical decisions, none of these have hit the mark on any of the characters whatsoever.
Right, yeah. The logic was kind of bad in the movie. like nobody did things in a logical manner. But
it is a after-apocalyptic scenario.
In defense of the movie, it's like it could be. I'm not trying to say that like a flaw with the movie could have been intentional, because I hate when people say that stuff where they're like, oh yeah, it was poorly edited, but that was an artistic choice. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be one of those people, but I'm just putting it to you, perhaps the idea that everybody acts in such an irrational fashion is just the whole thing with it being the post-apocalypse, where it's just like, it's such an irrational world,
But I don't think so.
Okay.
I did think about that, it's like, okay, so if this is the post-apocalyptic, whichever, blah, 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 it still doesn't entirely make sense. You're watching these people make decisions that just don't make sense. If it was a post-apocalyptic world and this man is being this crazy-ass stalker because you stole his car, first of all, the easy option would be asking, what do you want? And then when he says, I want my car back, you say, all right, give me that car. And then he would say, okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought. I was like,
cars.
why did, like, the only reason they took his car is because their car broke down, but he got their car running and he caught up to them in their car.
Yeah.
He gets out, and it's like, he doesn't have a gun on him, and he doesn't want to fight you, and you probably don't want to kill some random guy. So why don't you just switch cars and you just be on his way? So that I do agree with you with that. At that point, I was like, why is this happening?
And then these 3 people who have killed before, as we see later in the film. Okay, so he chokes one of them and slams him against a car. These people have killed before. They hit him, and then they leave him and a truck out in the desert somewhere.
Yeah.
The truck still works. He's still alive. First of all, you'd think they'd kill him. Second of all, you don't think they would leave him a truck.
Yeah.
Like, the decision-making in this movie makes no sense.
Actually, that part, I feel like they didn't want to kill just some random guy, because while they have killed before, were like meant to imply that was like a kill or be killed in situation. I think they left him with the truck with the assumption that he's not crazy enough to try to follow him, and so that he has a way to like get away. They didn't want to leave him to die. I think they just wanted to let him know that they're because he woke up like right next to a truck, like right near a truck, right?
Okay, so you're telling me that these people are morally good enough to do that, but near the end of the film, which we won't spoil, something happens.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, like, I honestly, I know what you're talking about, what happened near the end, but I don't think that's a factor of like the moral stance of the whole group. I think it was more like they were pushed to an extreme situation. This guy sees a thing that he has no control over, and he has no idea what's happening, and he feels extremely threatened, and he acts in a self-defensive manner. And he clearly shows extreme remorse for his actions afterwards. I don't think they're evil people. I just think they've been pushed to the limit. I don't think they wanted to leave that man to die. They just wanted to, get away from him.
I don't think they're evil people either. I just think that the logic of this film is not there.
The whole thing about this movie is I saw the main character as the like antagonist, in a sense. I mean, at the end,
sure.
At the end, in a weird kind of way, his actions are almost justified in a really weird way. But like he's going on a rampage. He kind of only hurts those he comes in contact with, and he's responsible for the deaths of many people.
You know, the way I see this movie, I don't look at it like there's an antagonist and a protagonist. Because there really isn't. I mean, it's people.
But morally, the most...
surviving.
I mean, morally, I believe the most evil character is the main character, in the sense that he's so far gone, he no longer has any morality.
But even then, he's still a decent guy sometimes, and then sometimes not. It's very very conflicting.
It shows us he once had humanity, but it shows us he's beyond caring. Like he is still he has a fraction of morality, but he's like, my life is forfeit. I'm just looking out for this car. I just need to get this car. That's like my only purpose right now, basically. And he does not care who dies in this. Like, he even straight up says to Robert Pattinson's character, is like, I don't care what happens to you. We're just going. And then I get the sense that he did care for him by the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Which was pretty obvious. It was like he's gonna end up caring for him by the end of the movie, and then yeah. You know, I didn't think that they did a very good job with the characters, and the motive is just kind of not there until the very end. Yeah. And even when it is presented to you at the very end, you're just like, oh, wow. Okay. I actually liked the ending. And, because it's just this thing of, like, what drives us can be so it's an emotional attachment that can be so materialistic and so small, but it can mean the world to you. And I liked the way they did the ending, because it's at the end of it, you look back on it, it's like, after all that carnage, this is why he did it. And then you think back on everything, and it's like, he killed so many people for this. And
I think there could have been something better at the end of the rainbow, I guess.
I suppose, but the whole point about the movie is, like, life is meaningless and everybody should hate themselves.
No, I understand.
It's like a really nihilistic kind of movie.
Yeah, it just didn't. Nothing hit me as much as I wanted it to. I still had a good time throughout the movie. It was all right. There was some editing choices that weren't my favorite, but.
There's some song choices that weren't my favorite.
I do that thing where I read IMDb trivia afterwards. Did you do that?
I did not, actually.
So do you remember that part where Robert Pattinson's in a car listening to whatever? Like, it was very weird changing.
Yeah,
in tone.
In tone, yeah.
Like he just starts listening to some pop song or something. That was supposed to be the director's laughing and making a joke about how Robert was a pretty boy in Twilight. That was the entire premise of that. And I'm like, that was a really stupid decision to put into this movie.
I somewhat agree. I was like, I almost literally what I did when that scene started, because you don't see that he's listening to music. It sounds like the movie's soundtrack when it started. I was like, I paused it and I checked to make sure like one of my other tabs wasn't playing music, because I was like, this can't be like in the movie, right?
Oh my god, that happened to me during. Oh my god, what was it? It was like Ginger and Rosa or something. I was watching it, and then out of nowhere, some like Twitch or something started playing in the background, and I heard gunshots, and I'm like, what's happening? This is insane.
So it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I paused it to make sure the music wasn't coming from somewhere else, because I was like, why is this the soundtrack all of a sudden? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Very odd choice. I mean, like, I don't think it's a masterpiece by any sense of the imagination, but I think it's if you want a really depressing, morbid, bleak, apocalyptic movie, I think it's more than serviceable. In fact, I think it's very good.
I think so too.
But if you want, like, it's not a masterpiece. It's just like, if that's your thing, it's not a must-watch movie, but if that's your thing, it's you'll probably enjoy it. So check it out.
If you want to watch a movie where Guy Pearce doesn't really act and he just kind of sits there and stares,
yeah, right.
This is your movie.
Yeah, and then Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson does a surprisingly good job playing just kind of a
slow person. I don't know if I think the implication is he has a mental handicap of some sort.
I believe so.
That or he's just dumb, but like he seems to have like some sort of neurological thing.
Yeah.
And
he did a really good job portraying it.
Which is ironic, given that in Good Time he played the brother of somebody who is mentally handicapped.
Yep.
So we saw him on both sides of the mental health.
But he said something in Good Time.
Oh boy, let's talk about Good Time.
Let's talk about
Rover. For me, is a solid 7 out of 10.
I'd probably give it 6.
Okay, fair enough. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
check it out. What's better though is Good Time. Good Time is very good in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked it. It was okay. So Good Time is interesting because it flip-flops on what we're focusing on now a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So it kicks off the movie. You're following you're in like a therapy session with the slower brother of Robert Pattinson. And I don't remember his name.
I literally watched the movie 2 hours ago.
It's like
Oh, that's their last name.
Then I don't know.
I don't remember.
But you're sitting on a session with him, and you're like, okay, so this guy, he's kind of interesting, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. And then it jumps into Robert Pattinson and him. And then it jumps into just...
And immediately you see the difference between the two.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this guy, he's very reserved, very quiet. And then Robert Pattinson's like a loudmouth, kind of.
Yeah, anxiety-driven, manic.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Kind of crazy as well. And then they split off, and then it's just Robert Patterson, and then he gets paired with this other guy from who knows where, and then
that actor, I don't think
crazy.
I've ever seen him in anything, but he was like one of my favorite things about this movie.
he was really good.
Super good. And not even in like a dramatic sense. I was like, this guy. There's a sequence where this guy who gets introduced as the movie goes on, where he's just telling a story, and you're like seeing a reenactment of like what he's talking about as he's telling the story, and it's just the most entertaining thing.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there, I was like smiling. I was like, it's just like this really thick New York accent guy talking about the crazy events he's been up to recently.
He's like, yeah, I just got out of jail, and then I met up with my friend, and we drank a lot, and then dropped acid, and I had sex, and then we went out, and it's like,
we went to an arcade, and we were selling acid to the kids.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was like, and then we ran from the cops and hid in an amusement park.
Yeah.
And it just keeps ramping up, and it's like, this is really entertaining filmmaking. It was like Tarantino-esque in the level of like, it's just a guy talking about like his day, but it's just really, really funny, really, 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 yeah.
Yeah, no, it was
well
it was a good
needed.
time.
Like I saw it as kind of like comic relief because it's just so insane.
I feel bad. I just said it. It was a good time.
It's a good time.
Yeah,
That's unavoidable for this. I think that I got the sense Good Time was going to be another kind of depressing movie, and I think I sent you the text. Like, I get the feeling Good Time's going to be a bad time or something like that.
Well, no, the first thing I remember you sending me was, okay, I just saw Robert Pattinson try to rape a 16-year-old girl. And I said, I just kind of sat there and looked at that. And I was like, oh boy.
Had you seen it?
No, I watched it just before I came.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I watched it like a couple hours ago.
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
We were probably watching it around the same time, but I was just a little after you.
Yeah, super, super good movie. But like, Robert Pattinson is... I now have newfound respect for him as an actor as watching these two movies. He was extremely good in Good Time. I really felt for his character. It's like he's not a good person like at all, but it's like you kind of get him, and I enjoyed his performance quite a lot. His brother, that felt like a pretty genuine portrayal. That
was very good.
He did a really good job. I would assume that actor isn't actually mentally handicapped, but he did a very realistic portrayal. Sometimes actors do a mentally handicapped, and it's just so bombastic it's almost insulting. But this guy, ow, just cracked my shoulder. But this guy, good job.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
It's a good time. That scene where they go back to the amusement park to pick up the acid and the money. Mm-hmm. I gotta say that was the most oh my god scene for me.
Oh yeah,
where he beats up the security guard.
It's really intense and frantic and crazy.
Yeah, he beats up the security guard. They find the acid, and then they proceed to pour the acid in liquid form into this guy's mouth.
So that he wakes up and he doesn't remember anything.
Either that, he overdoses, and then the cops thinks he's on drugs.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god, that part was just oh my god.
Wow. Especially since the security guard was the guy from Captain Phillips. I'm the captain now. It was him.
I know.
And he was good in this movie. I was like, oh, it's that guy. What's he doing these days?
This, I guess.
I didn't realize he was in art movies now. I enjoyed this movie. It had some downtime. It had scenes that were a lot more subdued, but the crazy parts are just super satisfying and entertaining. I want to say the lighting of this movie is super good. I always have to shout out when a movie is very well lit. There's a lot of there's a lot of very bright neon involved. I liked the scene where they're in the black lit room and like their clothes are glowing. It just looked cool. I'm a fan of that kind of thing.
Or, they're painted in red and then walking under red lighting
earlier
in the movie. Yeah.
It felt like Spring Breakers, except all of the oversaturated colors were like actually real in the world, and it wasn't just like a camera thing.
Yeah, I like this better than Spring Breakers.
Oh yeah, no, this is
very
Spring
good.
Breakers is like more of a guilty pleasure. This is like a legit good movie.
It was a good time.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a good time.
It's a good time. Damn it! Why did I say that?
Yes, solid film. So, I guess it's time to talk about what our next week's going to look like in A24.
What are we doing next week? I forget. Better Life After Beth.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call's Death.
Is it really Life After Beth next week?
I believe so. I think
Hold
we
on.
talked about this last week.
I'll check out the list. Oh, I went to the wrong thing. Check out the list from here.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember what I was gonna do.
Tusk, right?
Yeah, you got it. If you keep making that joke, I just might.
Well, you have. This is your only chance to do it.
I know,
but don't do it though.
I'm not
I swear
going
to God.
So we got Life After Beth, which is Aubrey Plaza and a bunch of other people that I'm excited to see. Yeah. And then my pick for this next week. We talked about it, and we're thinking that Life After Beth is supposed to be a little bit more lighthearted than most of the movies we've been watching. It
looks like a horror comedy,
which is probably going to be not quite as hurtful.
Yeah.
So then I figured, what should we pair it with? And at first I was like, you know what, maybe we should pair it with something else that's kind of nice. But then I remembered that we're gonna have to watch these all sometimes. So let's pick something that's gonna kill me.
You gotta save the nice ones for when we get to what's a really depressing movie.
The Sea of Trees, which is our other movie of the week.
Oh yeah, you were gonna do the Sea of Trees. That one sounds. I try to avoid looking at details of these movies before I see them, as to form my own opinion about them. Mm-hmm. But I looked it up because I was curious with it. I saw that the ratings are somewhat low, but then it says it's directed by Gus Van Sant. I'm sorry, Sadie.
Gas Van Sant.
Gas Van Sant. It's directed by Gas Van Sant, and.
Gas Van Sant.
Yeah, and it stars Matthew McConaughey and Ken Watanabe and Naomi Watts. And it's about, a guy that, meets someone in, the suicide forest in Japan.
Yep.
And they start a meaningful friendship or something. And it sounds like Swiss Army Man, essentially.
I just think it's going to be real sad.
You think? I'm willing to bet it's not gonna be as sad as you think. When you think Swiss Army Man, a man's about to kill himself and he befriends a corpse. It sounds kind of sad, but it was really funny and really fun.
Yeah, but it was obviously a comedy.
Yeah, I suppose this doesn't look so much like a comedy, so we'll see.
All right, so let's give it a go.
Yeah. Okay, so just to reiterate, our movies are Life After Beth and The Sea of Trees.
And then next week we got Tusk. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, and I get to pick the other one, right?
Yeah.
I should pick a really good movie. Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is we're watching Tusk together.
Yeah. I should pick another movie we can watch together. We can do a double feature.
So excited to watch Tusk. So, you've unhyped it so much that I'm so excited to see what your reaction to this movie is.
I think I've alluded to this before. I've never seen Tusk, and all I know about it is that multiple people that I respect say it's just terrible, and I'm not looking forward to seeing it. So maybe I'm just proved wrong. Maybe I really like it. Who knows?
You've lowered your standards so much. Maybe it just has to be mediocre for it to be good.
Anything would be an improvement. Yeah. And initially I was before we started this quest, I had such a rose-tinted view of A24, because all the A24 movies I had seen had been perfect. I was oh, they're so good. And then I saw Tusk was on this list as we were like sizing it up and like starting the A24 quest, and I was like, oh man, how can Tusk be on here? All A24 movies are good. And I've actually seen a couple of probably my least favorite movies on this list so far. So Tusk has to be better than The Captive. I mean, we're talking like weird, silly body horror effects. So that's something Captive doesn't have. So like, it has to be better than The Captive, right? It's Kevin Smith.
It's got Kevin Bacon.
It's got bacon in it.
It's got Kevin Spacey.
It's got a walrus.
It's got Kevin McDonald.
Yeah.
It's got all the Kevins.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to both of those. Life After Beth is Aubrey Plaza.
Yep.
And I love Aubrey.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to end this episode now. Thanks for watching. This is a very short one. Not intentionally so, but we just kind of got to the point here. Catch you on the next one.
Catch you on the next one.
It's like too bulky. Where the heck are you going to put this thing?